I'm not sure I will stay to the end of the meeting, so I prefer not to volunteer today.
Okay. Anyone else? Sergey? Come on, we're 20 people on this call. Who can... Anyone?
Okay, so Andy says he can.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Doesn't have a mic there.
Okay, there we go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. All right, so I guess we can get started. Are we live on YouTube?
We are live on YouTube.
Great, thank you. So first of all, welcome to the 13th CoreDev call. We don't have too much on the agenda today. We have follow-up on better pull request process. And then we have Pedro with state of Nix. And then I guess before we get started, is there something else that someone wants to talk about? They want to add to the agenda, we can do it right now. All right, cool. So let's first, is there someone, let's start to go through with the swarms and see if someone has to, you don't have to say anything if you've already presented a town hall, but if there's something that other people should know about. So we can start with maybe Sticker Market. Right.
Yeah, I'm here to discuss it as well.
Cool. Is there something you would like to talk about, give an update on, or that people should be aware of?
So in my part, I'm researching on, because we have this price dilemma. We have a lot of controller actions in the sticker market contract. And I'm trying to develop a smart contract that can control this in a democratic way. Because right now we had devoting the app to ask people what would be the price. And my idea would be that instead of voting what would be the price, the people vote directly what is the price. So I'm currently working with like making multiple delegations. I'm changing the architecture of how it works, but isolated like only for sticker markets, I think it's kind of ready, but not like in a multi-contract environment that democracy would control multiple contracts. But the main research of democracy for sticker markets now. So yeah, so then we don't have to discuss the price and let just the network decide it. I mean, it starts with zero. The price starts zero, and if the people voted to change to some value, it would happen then.
All right. Okay. Cool. Tribute talk. Anything that you want to update people on that's relevant? Someone from Tribute talk. If not, it's completely fine to say like nothing relevant as well.
Yeah, there isn't much. Just maybe mention that the touchpad, the non-native touchpad that is in the designs, is also implemented for keycard. So now we have 2 implementation of it. So if there is a new design that has a numpad, then please check the one used for Tribute to Talk or keycard, and don't do a third one. At some point, we should merge them.
All right, cool.
There's another thing on Tribute to Talk. Barry, in doing some of the token economy modeling stuff, we kind of realized that as Tribute to Talk is currently implemented, it's very transactional. So in these models, you have to assume as soon as it's not locked up, like staked or otherwise, you have to assume it's into another token. So there might actually be a better way to slightly readjust how Tribute to Talk is done. in the sense that instead of like putting up a certain amount of tokens and then having them relieved when on initial contact, it might actually be better to have both parties stake a certain amount of S&T towards each other until the relationship breaks down. So you would only withdraw your S&T from somebody at the end of a relationship, or like at the time of blocking them, which might be a bit more beneficial as a sort of anti-spam measure, and it's certainly more beneficial in terms of like locking up more tokens in the network, because you're essentially moving from like a transaction that might take a matter of seconds to like a day or so to the length of human relationships, which could be some months, if not years. So it's definitely something to think about.
I think that this, what you described, it looks like a visibility stake, but for a private conversation. I think that the current model it's good in the way of spam prevention. It might have some overhead, like for example, because the smartphone still need to process the message, even if they block it, they are just not going to show. But what you described it's mostly like visibility stake, and I was thinking for something like this for the public chats as well. The governance, the democracy would be able to maybe vote moderators or something like that for these public chats to slash this deposit. I'm not sure because we have this Tribute to Talk conversation about private conversations, about group conversations, and we also have for the public chats. I don't know if the correct name is Tribute to Talk. And also there is something in that I want to bring on is that Tribute to Talk should replace Patreon. Right now, there is a lot of discussion in the internet, in YouTube. The content creators are getting mad about Patreon banning people with political bias. And I think it's a great opportunity for Status to build something that is not censorship, not able to be censored. So that then there is this other version of the Tribute to Talk that would be something like Patreon. So there is this visibility stake way, and also this Patreon way that you need to pay every month. Maybe that depends on the content creator configuration, but I guess every month you would need to pay. There is a little bit problem on this content creator approach is that we would be using SNT, and there is some volatility on this, and maybe the content creators would not want it. So we might want to further think about if we use SNT for that. But I guess yes, use SNT. But if the content creator wants a stable coin, he can convert it like immediately. But the payment is done in SNT. Yeah, so that was what I'm thinking about Tribute to Talk. Right now we are developing this first version of the Tribute to Talk that is only for spam prevention, and I'm excited to go to this other version that is for maybe managing a group chat or maybe I'm not really sure how it would look like. We need to discuss further, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds great for the second iteration. Yeah, let's definitely keep it in mind. Thanks.
Awesome. Dapstor?
So Dapstor, I'm also working on this, and I developed this ranking system that is a contract, and another contract that feeds this ranking with the subscriptions of the users, for example, the apps. I'm building this more generic to be able to be used for the sticker markets as well. But there is this discussion on this curve or how it would work. So the curve is a bounding curve only for selling. It's only for don't voting, sorry. But yeah, it's not really clear for me. So this is why I didn't work it on this part on it. I just made like a simple down voting that is more cheaper than up voting. but the idea would be to have these bonding curves to give some economic incentive there, or maybe I'm not really sure. That's why I'm not going further on this. So we need to, maybe I need to discuss more with Andy how that would work exactly and why it should be like this. I'm also open to other suggestions on how make this ranking system. Like the ranking contract is done, but the way it's ranked up and ranked down in the system is something that we need to discuss. How that would actually, what is the best way to do that?
All right. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Andy.
Update there very quickly is that we're still waiting to do a design review on the first iteration of the dApp store because it's held up by considerations around changing the navigation bar, which is still in discussion.
All right, thank you. Telenetwork?
You guys can hear me?
Yep.
All right. So Telenetwork, we're revamping the UI to try to finalize the first proof of concept, and we did a lot of basically a lot of UI changes to make the whole thing really usable, and we're now in the process of re-adding the UI for the escrow part. And after that, hopefully we have a full working dApp, at least with the first approach to the arbitration mechanism. And we are continuing to look at this protocol to support multiple arbiters instead of just one, if that's the path we go towards.
All right. Network incentivization.
So I think that network incentivization is.
I think Andrea is on the. Andrea, are you on the line? Just in terms of. Oh, Andrea is not. Is he not here? Igor's not here either. Okay. Yes. So there is a post in Discuss with the current sort of research proposal. Andrea and somebody will work on sort of getting proof of concept of that, and it's. We also have designs Andrea's been working on, and that will present next town hall with what the UI might look like. Next Swarm.
About network.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
About network incentivization, I think that this should be multiple things, not just one. I see that maybe you are working in a single incentivization mechanism.
So it is. It would be, yeah. If you want to join the calls, that we could talk about that more in detail. But yes, and that was a deliberate choice because we don't want to be tied down to Whisper when it comes to these things. But we can definitely talk about other methods and so on. It would be best to do it in the Swarm calls, I think. Probably. Just because like this, so we at this point just want to get through sort of the updates, and then people can let everyone, because we have 35 people on the call, and then we have the sort of two points on the agenda. We can add more stuff to the agenda, or we can talk about it in specific swarms as well, to have it sort of maximally useful for as many people as possible.
Okay.
So core improvements, anyone from core here? All right, probably nothing. Protocol stuff, ongoing stuff with data synchronization. We're also going to meet at FCC. There's a conversation with libp2p. If that's interesting to someone else, just ping me if you want to talk about them with something. DAO.
So regarding the DAO, I was already talking about that in the sticker market. And my research currently on topic democracy was, I'm currently changing the idea of topic democracy to, instead of having subtopics, you have sub-democracies, because that's kind of more secure. The problem is that if I want to, for example, I create this sticker, there is this democracy running, And there is this sticker market that is a new contract that would have new actions to be done by the democracy. And to include these actions, I would need to pass a quorum to be able to create these topics. So to don't have to do that, I'm making it in a way that I can just create a new democracy just for sticker markets, and that would have a parent democracy that would be this already running democracy, that people would maybe vote or in this higher democracy or in this lower democracy that have a different quorum. That if, for example, because if you want to change some property, you don't want to reach the qualified quorum, like the absolute majority of influence. So that's my current take on that. And yeah, and there is a lot of improvements in the proposal system. Like I can create these proposals without the democracy, just for testing. So that's it for democracy.
All right, cool. Anything? I guess there's nothing from janitors. Then we have anything from janitors, core, browser, or chat. That's useful for other people to be aware of. Okay, anything from desktop, wallet, or keycard?
Nothing special, I think.
Also nothing special from wallet.
Cool. Did we miss any swarm or group of people that want to give an update? All right, cool. So first one is around following up on better pull request process. So we had this is mostly relevant for status core. We essentially had QA devs, design and so on, and tried to figure out sort of the major pain points we have, and then try to figure out things that are relevant on a short term and long term. So specific, I'll just list this there's a document, I'll link to it. It's actually discussed as well. But the specific sort of policy changes that we're proposing is it's 6 of them, I think. So one is we should reject PRs that don't have tests as a rule of thumb, and sort of increasing test coverage. Not using or promoting, not promoting nightly as something for end users. Reject pull requests that don't write sort of what tests the devs have done themselves and what platforms they use to test, as well as sort of including screenshots when it's relevant. Then running automated tests when a PR is at the review stage already. Developers asking for asking for 2 free reviewers, and these sort of the expectation being that these reviewers review within a day. And finally, stop building all the APKs, apps, and so on for a PR that only make changes to, say, test branch. Those are specific ones. And then we had things that we want to look into more long-term, which were integration tests, headless tests, which Andreas is looking into. And the other is iOS automated tests and supporting more platforms, which Anton is looking into. I guess, do people have something that were part of this call or not part of this call that want to add something to this, or any questions or thoughts? We can talk about it now.
Actually, I had a short conversation with Jakob today, and according to him, we are not able to stop building that kind of builds for PRs. So I think we can, I don't know if Jakob here can elaborate on this. If not, we can just remove that point.
Cool. Does anyone disagree with these points, or think they should be phrased differently, or there's something missing from these things that we can do on a short term?
My only concern is the first point where we add tests. Hopefully it's easy enough, like I'm not a Clojure developer. I've been able to contribute to the Clojure code base, but I'll have to look into how tests are written. It's not something I've yet put much thought into. hopefully it's something that is easy to pick up and won't be a blocker from now on.
Cool. I would say it's fairly easy to write tests in ClojureScript. It's similar. There's lots of different ways, but they're very similar to what you have in different ecosystems. But it's definitely not something that we've had as a habit before.
Yeah, like the important thing is to have a good reference of existing tests. Like if there's a single way that tests are implemented and that's the best way to do it, then we can just use that as a reference, and that's good. If we don't have like 2 or 3 ways and only one of them is the correct way, that's the most important.
Cool. On that, I imagine it will be sort of basic unit tests and then sort of whatever integration tests that Andreas is looking into. And then I guess the third level will be automated tests, which would be outside of Clojure, for example, and would be more about point and click and so on. Those are the 3 types of tests I imagine there are that wouldn't be manual. Does anyone disagree with that? Do I have other? All right. I guess a question on this note as well is that it's easier to sort of add process and these types of things. So is there something that we have right now that people think we should remove in terms of removing complexity and getting rid of existing processes? All right, cool. Anything else anyone wants to talk about with respect to pull request flow?
Just FYI, the end-to-end tests are already being triggered on review that's been implemented this morning.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I guess we can go on to Nix. That's you, Pedro, latest state and so on.
Okay, so I thought I'd start with a high-level overview of what Nix is, just for people who aren't familiar with it. Basically, it's a way of describing packages in a functional way. You have this read-only store, which is located at the root of your drive in the /nix folder. And that can only be changed by the admin. So normally, it's not something that one package can go and overwrite stuff from another package or even yourself. That gives us a lot of guarantees of the state in the machine. It also allows us to have this Nix branch, for instance, running at the same time in the same machine side by side with the normal way that we're doing stuff right now, which is great for testing. Because if you want to get into the Nix environment, you just type Nix shell, and then it does all the stuff that it needs to do with defining environment variables and so on, such that you can build on top of the Nix packages. If you're not in this shell, then you don't see the Nix stuff because it's hidden away in this root folder. So in terms of where we are right now, the mobile phase has been done a couple of weeks ago. That's finished, and we've been able to remove usage of like 3 package managers and replace that with Nix. The hard part now was to replace the desktop part of the dependencies, mostly because of Qt. That's last week I was able to do it for Linux, and so right now we have Linux building and packaging, and it even has the web view, which is not something that is present in the original Nix packages. It's only the building of the web view for macOS that's giving us problems right now, and that's what I'm currently looking at. Hopefully it's not something too serious, and we'll be able to get unblocked fairly soon. So once that's done, we have everything that we need to completely phase out the old way of doing things and get into, merge this Nix branch and start doing everything inside Nix. and also change the CI servers. Yeah, that's basically it. I don't know if anyone has questions about this, if they've tried and hit some roadblocks. All ears.
How do things go with the Android SDK?
Android SDK for the time being, it's not taken into account. We still do it the old way. So it will get installed automatically, but not inside of Nix. But at least this gives us the advantage that an external contributor will only have to do make setup, and he will have everything configured automatically, and we can guarantee that the build environment will work. The Android SDK, it's something that is not a blocker. We can fix it in a subsequent pull request.
I had a question. Let's say that a random package dependency is updated by the upstream with a bug fix, and we want to incorporate that bug fix. What's the workflow that you imagine? What are the steps?
There are some ways, some different ways you can go about it. You could maintain your own fork. We could have the status fork of the Nix packages repo. Some people don't recommend that just because of the maintenance involved. You could also possibly, when in the recipe that you use to import the Nix packages, you could possibly patch that there. It's not something that I've gone into depth until now. So, but it's something in the worst case scenario, you just maintain a fork of the Nix packages and you try to keep it as lean as possible. But you could import those newer packages there.
And let's say that it has an upstream version, which is good. Like, what are the steps that developers normally have to take, like when upstream is keeping up to date with, or when Nix packages is keeping up to date with upstream?
Not sure I followed the question. Can you rephrase it?
So if I know, like, do we lock down the versions that are installed?
Oh yeah. So the way that Nix packages works is you clone a specific tag of this repo, and so that's the way that it's a bit like what's the name of the other package manager that I just replaced a couple of weeks ago. The one that we were using for Mac.
Brew.
Yeah, so with Brew, it's the same thing. You just clone the GitHub repo, and you're basing yourself on what's described in this repository. Yeah, it's the same thing with Nix. So as long as we clone this specific tag or commit SHA, then you know that they are locked down. So if you want to get a newer version of things, then you just have to replace this SHA or tag, and then you get to. So it's hard to, like, if you want to get a specific version of one tool and then a specific version of another tool, then yeah, the workflow is really hard. But I think the important thing for us is not really to have one specific tool, one specific version of each tool. It's mostly to guarantee that the versions of the tools are locked down, that we have known good versions, and not really to focus on having one version per tool that is really like completely made up by us. I want to have 1.11 of this and some such of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool. That answers it. Thanks.
No problem.
So everything should use the same version. That's what you mean?
Yeah, like if I commit something to Status React, and then you go and clone it and you do Nix shell, it will pull down exactly the same versions of the tools and packages that I have on my machine. That's the guarantee that they give you.
Okay, great. I got it.
Yeah. So the nice thing, the nice side effect of that is that if I want to build a commit SHA from a release, 933 or 932 from 1 month ago, I can check out that tag, and I'm guaranteed that I will get these exact packages and tools that were used at the time to build that version. So even if the tools moved on and maybe they are no longer compatible, I will still get exactly the same environment that I had at the time.
Yeah, it's really awesome that they've seen this. It's super useful. Lots of things.
Yeah, and the tooling is really good around Nix. I had the similar experience with Conan. So that was the package manager that I had introduced for building Windows desktop. And Nix is actually one layer on top of that. They share exactly the same way of this, the ideals are the same, and part of the way they implement it is the same. But Nix is even more powerful than Conan, so in time it would make sense to replace it as well.
Cool. Anything else on Nix?
Not for me. So if there are no more questions, that's it.
Right. Cool. So that was pretty quick. Is there something that people would like to talk about? Maybe that they feel like they couldn't talk about in the beginning, or something else has come up? Or a quick announcement or anything like this? I can share a super small one. There is now a transcript, at least for one of the dev calls. You can add it thanks to Bounty. So we have these notes, but now there's also a transcript for the 10th dev call, and I have 2 more bounties for other dev calls as well, if there's something you're looking for that you would like to refer to.
Where are these transcripts stored afterwards?
It's in the so status IM on GitHub/PM, and then it's in the README.
Okay, so normally it's searchable if it's done that way.
Yeah,
cool.
We have a question.
I have a quick thing that I saw in my email box this morning, which is that Nimbus just synced past block 500,000, which is pretty cool.
Woo!
It's one of our Bounty contributors that's been really killing it lately. He's been fixing lots of bugs, so it's going pretty quick now. Pretty nice to see.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Cool. Anything else?
So it's been a little bit annoying for me to use status lately. So I don't know if anyone else having same issues with connectivity and
yeah, that would be good. Maybe update some core about the problems with mail servers and all this stuff. Anyone who wants to give that? Roman, Pedro.
I don't know if
Adam.
If Adam is on the call, he's mostly yeah.
Yeah, I can give an update about the My Server, but it kind of depends what kind of connectivity problems you have, because what we fixed is the problem when you connect to My Server and you lose a connection and your node, actually your node ID stays in the My Server actually like for quite a long time, and you cannot connect to that My Server anymore again. So if that's the problem, then it should be fixed. If it's something different, then I guess it depends exactly what it is. But that was fixed recently.
I'm not sure, but I think there is some multiple. So that would be one. and that's currently that's something that is currently running. That's problem that you mentioned. Yes, and this would be fixed.
It's already fixed because it's only problem on the nodes running on our servers, like Maze servers specifically. But the other, some other improvements to the picking Maze server and all other things. I know that there were a couple of pull requests recently merged to Status React, but I guess they are waiting for a release, which should happen like tomorrow, I guess, or something like that. Like very soon. I mean, this week.
Okay, I tried to run the mail server myself, but I had some problems with it. It seemed to work, but it seemed not to. Maybe it was not saving the messages and delivering. I'm not sure, but that would be something interesting I wanted to try out in future.
Sure. I mean, I am available. So if you would like to get some help with setting up my server, just debugging it, let me know. Or generally, there's this status core infra channel that usually people hang out there who know what to do with that. So yeah, happy to help with any problems. Recently, Jakub was also playing with Maze servers and providing nice interface using Docker and Docker Compose. So maybe that could be helpful for you to just simplify stuff. That's yeah, it's pretty simple and actually like makes it much easier to run your own Maze servers. So yeah, there's this new option available since like 2 weeks or something like that.
Is it documented in the running your own node on the doc site?
I think not yet. It has a README and stuff in the repository, but it might not have been ported to this run node in our docs. We should do that.
Yeah, I was able to run the node in my own computer, and it connected. It seemed to work, but it didn't. It kept connected. It looked like it was working, but I never received a message. So when I switched it to a mail server from the cluster, then I got the messages. So that was the problem I was having, and yeah, I will try to contact you then about that issue. Because I think that maybe if the cluster is overloaded, if I run my own node, I could like never get these problems, and that was my goal. Make it work for me at least perfectly, and then I don't have to care about the clusters, and so I could like, because I was afraid that I'm not getting all the messages, and I was afraid that people was not getting my message. So I tried to make it that it's more reliable. That maybe if I run the mail server myself, maybe that could be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally valid assumption. Like if you run it on a server and you keep it connected to the network, I mean, it should generally be the same availability as our Maze servers because they are also not really overloaded. There's just this problem. So if you use the code from like 2 weeks ago, that problem were also on your server. Yeah. But yeah, let's talk offline on status and we can figure out what's wrong. Yeah.
On that note, I'm not sure if this was mentioned before, but we have the Chaos Unicorn Day, April 1st. So that's it's going to be a day when we shut down things like our cluster and access to Infura and FSCAN and so on. So that will be fun. And it's up to you, sort of your swarm, how relevant it is to you. If you, like on one end, you might not want to prepare at all, and it will just be that day when things are chaotic, and we'll see how things work with hosting our own stuff and so on. But maybe it's more relevant to your swarm, in which case this would be a good time to think about maybe what it would look like without it. But it's essentially like a fire drill where we're going to turn off all the things that we should be ashamed of, all the centralized aspects. And if you know any projects in this space, please let us know, and they can also participate. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I think that's a great point, because we need to kind of be prepared to that regarding the mail servers. And from what I noticed, when the mail server is not working properly, I still be able to communicate with people, which is really, really cool. So just because I'm on the Whisper peer-to-peer network, I'm able to send messages and the other clients are able to receive it. But the only problem is the offline messages that doesn't work. So in that day, if we shut down the cluster, we would not be able to read offline messages. And every message that was sent offline in that period would be lost if no one kept the cache of it.
Yeah, so even more than that. Well, because you need boot nodes as well. And if we host most of the boot nodes right now, so that's another thing. You can add a custom boot node, but right now it's not clear how closely connected the network is. But if we shut down all the boot nodes in the cluster, you won't actually be able to talk at all. So that's a good reason to get rid of our centralization in our cluster. On the note of messages being lost at all, currently yes, but this is also something where a data synchronization layer would help. We'll see if we get to it before Chaos Unicorn. That would be amazing, but if not, then yeah.
Do you think that it would be interesting to have like some calls or a group discussion, something to prepare status to the Unicorn Day, so we are not hit on the face by it, and like we manage.
So we had a call last week. I think that we don't want it to detract from the focus of shipping the white paper and making sort of status reliable app for sort of public launch. So that's still priority number 1 and 2. So. But that said, like to some swarms, it might be more relevant to prepare for it. But we don't want it to be something where people shift the roadmap, because our focus is still on shipping the white paper. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But if you have ideas for how to survive, like a survival guide or whatever, you can post it on Discuss, and like it could be like a fun side thing.
Yeah, I think that the risk of having this centralization problem is only temporary, but it would be a risk if we are able to like be shut down by an attack. That would be a problem. But I see why it's not a priority right now. But yeah, I think that would be at least a fun experiment to show everyone what would be like if we didn't have this driver. But it seems like it would just not work. We will just shut down a status that way. So I think for that not happening, that should be at least kind of working. I'm not sure how we would fix the boot nodes problem. But
so you should. So that's an example. Like you should be able to run it with your own custom boot node, and if that's not the case, there might be some small things we have to do on the core side of things to make sure it works. But you should be able to host your own boot node.
Yeah,
and this is also something we can do during the day. So everyone can host their own boot node, and then on Twitter or Reddit or Discuss or whatever, people can say like, well, here, let's join the network together. And it would be sort of a social experiment in some way to see how quickly the network would heal without our cluster.
Yeah, makes sense.
Any other thoughts or comment on Chaos Unicorn Day or any other type of announcement or something before we end this call?
Regarding the discussion about how the public chats would be, and because right now we are not touching that because it's not priority, but I think that we can, while we don't develop it, we might be able to discuss how we want that to be. For example, because the public chat doesn't have moderation right now, and that's bad in my opinion, or it's just my opinion is wrong, but I'm not sure. We should discuss that. And also about the group chats, that they currently have this one administrator. So maybe we want in future have more advanced type of group chats that you can have a contract that it's a small democracy which controls who can enter or who can exit. That's also part of Tribute to Talk in this meaning of replacing Patreon, because
let's enter like a discuss post.
Yeah, a discuss post, and then we can, if you could add it to the next core dev call agenda, if there's something to discuss more completely, we can talk about it. Cool. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Any final words? If not, let's end this. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.